be advised that we have a young lady from Times and Record News in the courtroom this morning, and I want you to know it's not Lynn Walker. So she'll be taking some pictures, so you see her moving around, that's what's going on.
Don't be overly alarmed.
Yeah, don't be alarmed, don't be alarmed.
Good morning. It's 10 a.m. on Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024. Call this meeting of the Wichita County Commissioners Court to order. If everyone would please stand, Commissioner Beecham is going to give our invocation.
Pray with me, please. Our good and gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we pause and give thanks to you today, and we remember what this past weekend was all about, Lord, the fact that your Son died and he rose again to defeat our sins forever, Lord. We just look to him for that. Lord, we just pray that you'd be with us, you'd guide and direct our thoughts and our actions on the court this morning. Lord, you would give us wisdom to act correctly. Lord, I pray that you would be with our first responders, Lord, our military. Lord, I pray that you'd be with our leaders of our state and our nation, Lord, that they would also make wise decisions moving us forward, Lord. Lord, that they would govern responsibly. We just pray all these things in Christ Jesus' name. And for his sake I pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join us for the pledge to the U.S. flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now join us for the pledge to the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right, everyone have a seat, please. We'll go ahead and say that we've got a full house this morning. I know some folks may be here for a minute and then maybe leaving. You're welcome to do that. But if in the meantime, we do have some overflow seating available in room 290, which is just down the hall and across. So just we have that available.
Somebody can be the sheriff for a few minutes.
Yeah. All right. At this time, I would like to call up Kenneth Ream, and Tanya Rushing, our HR director. We are recognizing Kenneth this morning for an outstanding mustache. Thank you.
Photo op.
But in addition to that, yeah, it is. It's a great mustache. We are recognizing Kenneth as Wichita County Employee of the Month for 2024. I think anyone who's worked with Kenneth for any amount of time won't question why he won this award. Yeah. It's good to work with, got a can-do attitude, pretty much always a smile on his face. His office isn't well decorated, but that's a different thing.
We're working on that.
Yeah, okay, good. And so as I always do, I'd like to give the floor over to Tanya to say a few words about Kenneth.
Yes, Kenneth has a background in safety and management, and so when we recruited him to come and work with us as our safety risk manager, there's usually a training period, and getting their feet wet. There was none with this guy. He hasn't even been here 6 months. We have completed, I think, 5 trainings with flagger, hazardous communication, bloodborne pathogens, winter preparedness, and driver safety. And my goal for this year was to receive the state's Excellence in Safety Award, which is given out to, this year was given out to 15 of the 254 counties. We've always gotten the Safety Achievement Award, but we've never gotten the Excellence. Because him, and checked a few more boxes, we got that award. The other thing, he has proposed a new safety incentive plan, which you guys will learn about on Friday when we go over the policy manual. I can give him stuff and it's just done. He doesn't say a lot. And I said, have you checked on so-and-so? Because I tend to micromanage. And he said, yeah, they're calling on Tuesday. We got to blah, blah, blah. And it's like, he's done. So it is great to have him. He has been invaluable to me and helps our office run. Thanks. More than you want to hear on that. But.
That's good. That's great. Kenneth, you again in a second, but anything, you've got the floor, anything you'd like to say?
I don't know, just thank you, and everybody in Human Resources works hard, so You're all just a pleasure to work with, and it's just a positive environment all the time, so thank you guys.
Commissioners?
Excellent job, and thanks for driving us over and getting the State Excellence Award. That's a big achievement, so we've started this culture of safety, and now we're increasing it, making it better, thanks to your efforts, and we just really appreciate you being on board.
Thank you, and thank you for what you just said. You said it's a positive department. I love that any of our departments are saying that about that. So I continue with that. We like as much positivity as we can get.
See, you always know to have a guy like Kenneth on your team. He's like a good offensive tackle.
That's right.
When one gets tough, you stay behind him. No, thank you, Kenneth, for a great job. People don't understand how important safety is, but especially when we've got road crews, we've got law enforcement, we've got all these different components to county government, and there are some dangerous jobs out there, and you help keep them safe, and we appreciate that.
Your only challenge is you're 6 months in and you set the bar up here.
That's
That's your own. So, yeah, again, congratulations on Employee of the Month, and please accept this plaque. It's just a token of commemorating the event.
Thank you.
And
Great
Nancy,
job.
Good job.
We're gonna move over so we don't take pictures in front of the.
Oh, excuse me.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Tanya's excited because she gets to come up before the whole court twice today and speak.
That's true. Yep.
Yeah. All right. And now it's everyone's second favorite part of Commissioner's Court when they get to hear me read stuff. We are excited to have the opportunity this morning to do a proclamation for Child Abuse Prevention Month. There are a lot of folks here, I think, for this. I'm gonna let y'all pick amongst yourselves who's coming up forward while we do the proclamation. I will ask you to introduce yourself, so. Come on up.
All line up across here.
There's a lot of agencies represented.
Come on, man.
Never know why the bus was parked there.
So before I do read the proclamation, I will ask, we'll start here and move down the right. Introduce yourself and the agency that you represent.
I am Erica Ment. I am the Executive Director for Campfire North Texas.
Carrie Goins with Child Care Partners.
Denise Lucas with Home Therapy Centers.
Kathy Rios, CFPS Faith-Based Community Engagement.
Crystal Flynn with To Engage.
Lisa Choate, Children's Aid Society, Children's 17 Shelter.
Casey Washington with CASA.
James Potter, the Director for CASA.
Beth Maywald, Early Childhood Coalition of Wichita County, North Texas area 9 Way.
Well, before I read this, thank y'all all for attending today. It's exciting to see so many different agencies represented, all trying to take care of kids in our community. So, whereas for year 2023, the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services confirmed 548 victims of child abuse or neglect in Wichita County. And whereas for year 2023, the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services reported to have placed 193 children in foster or other substitute care away from their original caregivers in Wichita County. And whereas adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, are traumatic events that occur before a child reaches the age of 18. ACEs include the following: all types of abuse and neglect, parental substance use or mental illness, parental incarceration, domestic violence, and divorce. The CDC reports that 61% of adults surveyed across 25 states reported they have experienced at least one type of ACE before age 18, and nearly 1 in 6 reported they had experienced 4 or more types of ACEs. And whereas the abuse and neglect of children, as well as other ACEs, are causing severe, costly, and lifelong problems affecting all of society, including physical and mental health problems, school failure, and criminal behavior. And whereas creating and sustaining safe, stable, nurturing relationships and environments for all children and families can prevent child abuse and other ACEs and help all children reach their full potential. And whereas during the month of April, the Tacoma Child Abuse Prevention Committee, in partnership with the Early Childhood Coalition of Greater Wichita County, in collaboration with their citywide partners, will be engaging individuals and communities throughout the city in a coordinated effort to reduce ACEs, increase resilience, and prevent child abuse and neglect by promoting awareness of healthy child development, positive parenting practices, and the types of support families need within our communities. Now therefore, the Wichita County Commissioners Court hereby proclaims April 2024 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Wichita County and urge all citizens to recognize this month by dedicating ourselves to the task of improving the quality of life for all children and families. Y'all have listened to me talk about Commissioner Beecham, did you want to say anything on
No,
this?
just every one of you are such dedicated professionals, and I thank every one of you for doing what you do to ensure the safety and well-being of our children. Thank you.
Thank you all. And did y'all want to take this opportunity? You've got the floor, you've got the
I wanted to just say a quick thank you to Mark. Mark has been a part of the Early Childhood Coalition for a number of years, and it is very difficult for us to keep county and city government folks, because y'all are so very busy people. But if he's got 10 minutes, he's there for us, and we appreciate that so much and all that y'all do for us in the community.
Thank you.
And we wanted to invite you to lunch.
Oh,
At Casa 808 Austin.
Okay.
Come see the Walk of Knowledge this year. You have shoes representing the 548 victims, and we'll feed you lunch too.
There you go.
Wow.
And that's, just so that anyone listening at home, that's available. Whole
It's
community
open to the
is-
public. Open to the, bring your friend, call your people.
And bring your family on April 20th to the Party for Prevention.
Amen. Yes.
Well, y'all know better than anyone, situation we're in where unfortunately these numbers aren't going in the right direction, they're going in the wrong direction. That doesn't happen overnight, and that doesn't happen because of one or two factors. It's culture-wide, it's community-wide, it's nationwide. And so the answer to that's gonna be one adult at a time, getting involved with agencies, getting involved themselves, and getting in the middle of it and trying to help improve the lives of kids. And so thank y'all for what y'all do on an agency level, and thank you for the many individuals who work with y'all to try to improve the lives of kids. We appreciate y'all coming this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on, who wants to hold the proclamation?
Eric,
Okay.
grab that.
I'm all with that, and I will be short.
Can you get everybody, or do we need the two row? Thank y'all so much.
Thank y'all.
Thanks for your time. Thank you.
I'm not coming back for a while.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks.
John, okay. Thanks, Beth.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
I think it's gonna fill that hole, there's people out there waiting to get in.
Well, it looks like we've got people in the hall, and if anyone is in the overflow room right now, can hear me, there are plenty of seats available. Come on down.
I can't feel your shoes, Sheriff. I tried it back home and it didn't work out. I've got a t-shirt and coffee mugs, that right.
They both
Expensive racing history.
All right. Any other presentations to make this morning? Okay. It is 10:14. We will open up for public comments. As a reminder, anything brought up during public comment, action cannot be taken on it by Commissioners Court, and we ask that comments be limited to 5 minutes or less. Does anyone have a public comment this morning? The sheriff has a private comment, he's just making it. Anyone? Last chance? All right, it is still 10:14, and public comments are closed.
See, it may be like in school, Judge, you may have to separate that group over there in the corner.
This new guy behind me is
It's causing trouble. All right, so let's move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone have any questions or comments or changes they'd like to propose to items on the consent agenda?
Judge, I've got some clarifications or just basically about some of these here.
Okay.
Item 1, and Margaret diligently stayed on top of this, and Glenda and Brenda called continuously, but we did not get, without the help of Brendan, we didn't know how any of it worked after we got what we did, and we're being told that it worked, but anyway, so Brendan went out there and got it. Margaret took a call or two, was able to know a situation, directed in to me, and I continued to try to hook Brendan up, and he did, and so now we're fully capable and ready to go. But we held off for a very long period of time until we got the answers that we needed. So item 3, that is for just a little clarification. That is for our milling off the Klossner machine that'll soon be coming in, and more than likely Precinct 2 will utilize some of that. When we're through, we'll probably be sharing a little bit, so it may not be just a Precinct 4. We'll divide that up, and as hours
water
permit.
truck for the milling machine?
Do what?
You say that water truck for the milling machine?
Yes. And we'll run Mark's already, but it needs really 2, and so Barry's is down
Mine's
right
down
now
in
in
the
the,
tank.
so we were concerned that it won't be ready by then, so. And then item 6, we had a little bit of change in the city of Electra. Sewer line kept us from being able to complete the large culvert project. We decided after meeting and conferring that we needed to delay that until a time that sewer line could be lowered to grade, which is an expense to the city of Electra and a very timely cost too. This Precinct 4 will utilize the culverts that we had ordered for that. We'd already received a very good discount from Contact in Seymour because they had asked us to take some culverts that the railroad was no longer using. And so they gave us a large discount for that, and Precinct 4 can use those. So we reduced the amount of that invoice that'll know. And Mike had called to keep up with it, and I told him we probably would have some changes, and he was watching it so that he could bill the city of Electra when that time comes. Item 9, Judge, I would like to pull item 9 down if at all possible.
Okay.
To the general business.
Okay. Is there any objection to pulling consent agenda 9 down to general business? Okay, we'll pull it to general business.
Motion to approve, pull it down.
Second.
I don't think we need a motion to pull it down.
No, this motion.
Motion.
Oh, you said pull it down.
Motion to approve the
Okay.
consent agenda with pulling it down.
Gotcha, okay. All right.
That with.
Yeah, I think you did say that. So we've got a motion by Commissioner Fincannon, seconded by Commissioner Beecham to approve the consent agenda with number 9 pulled down to general business. Do we have any other questions or comments on the consent agenda or on the motion? All right, motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. All right, let's go to general business number 1. Presentation of a letter from the Texas Workforce Commission and Texas Veterans Commission recognizing Wichita County for participating in the We Hire Vets Employer Recognition Program. More than 10% of Wichita County employees once served in the United States Armed Forces. Tanya, do you want to speak about this at all?
I do. The We Hire Vets program is a coordinated effort between our governor, Texas Workforce Commission, and the Texas Veterans Association, recognizing, as you said, 10%, or employers who have 10% of their employees who once served in the military. With a lot of our employees not using email or sitting at a desk and have a computer, they didn't get the emails that I sent out, so it was a little bit to get them all reeled in. But we do have over 10% of, I think it was 10.8% of our over 500 employees who were veterans. And so our office, I worked with Chuck Connor, not the movie star, with the Texas Workforce Commission, and we received our designation, so we could probably display that decal on our websites, on our front door. We'll get a physical decal to put out there, and then they also presented us with the letter, which I would like to present to the judge.
Oh, okay.
And our office is
Nan, can you
now tracking people we hire who are
Excellent.
So,
Thank you. Thanks for your hard work.
Tanya, let's get a picture, Tanya, one sec.
Oh, excuse me.
You get to speak twice and take a picture twice.
Okay.
Thank you, Tanya.
Great work.
Yeah, thank you for the work on that.
Thank you.
All right, do we have any other comments or questions on that item? All right, thank you again. All right, general business item number 2. Discuss, consider, and/or take action to approve and ratify the minutes of the March 26, 2024 regular session. Does anyone have any changes to make?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion by Commissioner Beecham, seconded by Commissioner Fincannon to approve and ratify the March 26, 2024 minutes. Any question on the motion, comment on the motion or the item? All right, the motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. Item number 3, review and approve the regular bills for payment. Verify payroll taxes have been filed and order county treasurer to disperse payroll and/or bills within 72 hours via U.S. mail, FedEx, UPS, or electronically, unless directed otherwise, or may be picked up and ledgered in the treasurer's office. Do we have any questions?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion by Commissioner Fincannon, seconded by Commissioner Mahler to approve, verify, and order. Any questions or comments on the motion or the item itself? All right, that motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The motion carries 5-0. Item number 4, discuss, consider, and/or take action to approve one of 2 quotes for concrete work to stop rainwater from leaking into the south side of the courthouse to be paid from Department 401 with lines determined by the county auditor. Commissioner Beecham, was this yours?
Yes, and I'll have Rick speak to this as well. As we all know, we continue to have water, particularly in the district clerk's break room area in the back, that comes in when we have a 2 or 3 inch rain event, because all the water off the roof drains right there in that corner, and it does not move away from the building quick enough. So it seeps in. Waterproofing has been applied to the interior, and it's slowed it down considerably, but it has not resolved the problem. We also have the same problem in the stairwell that's in the boiler room, and we have water that leaks into the boiler room, so this will address part of that as well. It's not a fix-all, but it will help move that water away from the building into the drains. So, Rick, you want to speak to?
Well, Mark pretty much covered it, but so what we're looking at is doing is pouring, the footer that goes around the southeast side of the steps of the courthouse. There's a footer that goes all the way around and turns towards the east. It goes back towards the other steps right there. So we're gonna come in and pour concrete from the building out to that footer, that distance away from the building. Slope it away from the building, seal up against the building with sealant. So the idea is to, instead of water gathering in those beds with the footers that are this much taller than the building edge, we're gonna take that out and get it where it'll run away from the building. There's also, a while back, we put a 6-inch drain that we ran all the way out to 7th Street
Right.
from the building. So there's culverts that were built for this, for today, for the future, for what we're gonna do. And we'll slope that also, some of that concrete to those drains, so we just get that water away from the building. Probably at a later time, in the second phase, we'll do the west side of those front steps and do the same thing, and maybe try to keep the water from gathering underneath the building, because that's where it's going.
Yeah,
And
we
so
don't
need to
have
get
any
it
other
out.
problem on the west side currently,
Yeah.
so.
So that's the gist of it.
Do you have a recommendation as to which of these two?
Uh,
They're not
They're
much.
$90 apart.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking a little bitter, so.
Yeah.
well, I wanna ask a few questions on the Velez. He specifically mentions the caulk, but Duke does not. Is Duke going to caulk?
Yes, yeah, it really wasn't a very, like, it wasn't
And
like a
neither one of them are very
detailed.
detailed,
Right.
but I do like the detail in Duke's where he is going to achieve positive drainage to the gutter flow line. I assume that that's part of Velez.
Right, and we're also putting in a grate across the sidewalk, so, that would be also on the east side of the building there, so when that water's trying to relieve from the building, because it's higher to the parking lot, we're gonna saw cut across the, sidewalk and then put a walk plate across there, so the water can go away from the building, get out and drain on down and get away from the building. That's, in both people have that in their bids.
So the scope on both is
Yeah.
exactly the same.
The scope's the same.
Well, our district clerk will be thrilled, and her staff will be thrilled with.
And I have a question on that. So, and Sheriff, you'll have to help me with this. After I came on this court, within 2 years' time, we had a company to fix water flow problems coming in, and everybody was displaced in the bottom. I know Melvin, we heard about it continuously, but we paid a company to come in and do exactly this. What, is there warranty on their work, or, I mean, we're talking about now, it would be 9 years since, if that was the latest, or if it happened the day I was. So what is the,
Well, we did help it
It's,
considerably, because I remember walking in Melvin's office down there and it goes splish splash. And it did help it considerably, but
Those offices in the basement against that west wall below the stairs, it was like riding the Titanic during a rainstorm, just continually.
but didn't this kind of stop it for?
It slowed it down. It's just like underneath the stairs, or what we used to call the copy machine room with the stairs were above it. It was a continual problem, probably for decades.
But
Of it coming through
it's
there.
just happening in one corner now, for the most
The
part.
north, is it that southwest corner?
It's the copy room.
Yeah,
But what, my question is there any type of warranty that exists that the company that no doubt told us they could solve this problem, and we hired them and we paid them, and now we're hiring another company that says the same thing, but what is the warranty, Rick, on something like that? Or do we even know the company we used several years ago to do this?
That was before my time. I've been here almost 3 years, and I didn't
that
know
was
that
before
ever
my
happened.
time.
Mel, how is that handled? I mean, how do we investigate? Did they give us a 20-year warranty and we pay it as part of it, and now we're throwing that to the wind when we hire them?
We'd have to have the contract and see who it is and what might have been in there, but I know obviously we've made changes to the courthouse as well that, have an effect on that. If you go and start doing all the construction we've done, I think a company could easily say, well, you guys have changed things quite a bit, and who knows what happened there. But bottom line, we'd have to have the contract.
But all this work was done on the exterior of this building to stop the flow of water. I mean, they didn't come into Dave's office, well, other than cosmetically after the fact, but the purpose was to dig around, trench, slope the water away from the building, all of this stuff. And I have no remembrance of how much that cost, but I do know that was to cure the problem.
Well, I'll say this, when I come onto the court, that had already been done, but we had a major flood event after that where the ceiling tiles and everything came down in the old restrooms in the back
Yeah,
and
it got
shut
taken out.
shut the female restroom down completely.
Yeah.
So we should have asked that question
Yeah.
6-7 years ago.
But sorry to
I
say
don't
this.
disagree with you, but we should have asked that question 6 or 7 years ago.
Well, the ceiling tiles, I mean, didn't have anything really to do with the job this
Yeah.
company did. It was
Yes, it
solely
did.
about weeping through the walls.
That's what happened. It weeped through the walls and from a rain event and weeped in so much that it took the ceiling tiles down.
We had actually at one point inmate labor we brought dirt in and filled it at a big slope on the front of that whole courthouse.
Yeah.
And it started for quite a while, but they were getting up thinking it was,
Part of the problem was is that it sloped back toward the building. And that dirt
it washed out the
fill,
backside of it.
yeah, that dirt fill took it away from the building, and that helped probably as much as any of the ceiling or anything else did. I remember when that was going on.
Yeah.
And, but that, I think the one you're talking about with the ceiling piles, that came up like in the district courtroom.
No, that
No, this
was,
was independent, this was a different one. It was
This
in one
was-
area by the women's bathroom, that corner.
Yeah,
But what I'm talking about didn't exceed, so I'm assuming that I'm in the downstairs bathroom, I look out the window and see ground level.
no, it's below ground level. From
Yeah.
There's no windows that let me look out
No.
and to see the entrance come in? So
No.
the whole
It's-
bottom floor is below
the
ground
whole
level?
bottom floor is below ground level.
Huh.
Commissioner Van thank you.
I wanted to address what you said, Jeff. Unless you went back and looked at their estimate when they did that job, there's not anybody in the construction business gonna give you a warranty for that. These two companies here aren't giving you a warranty for
No.
that.
Okay.
They're saying that they're willing to do work toward that progress. But I don't know of a construction company, period, that would ever give you a warranty that says they can 100% stop it.
Okay.
They don't know until they do it if it's gonna work or not, so
When I
us
said my-
arguing about it
Well,
10
yeah,
years
I'm
ago
all
is kind of
for-
irrelevant.
I'm all
I
for
mean,
fixing the problem, I just wanted to
Well-
make sure.
But it's a
that-
good question to
If you
ask.
roll back and listen to what I said when I presented initially, I said, this won't solve the problem, it will help the problem.
and that's all we gotta
I
try
tell
to
you,
do.
putting that drain to drain that water away though, I think will be a major step forward, because that sidewalk and all has just been a dam to hold it back up against the building, and that's gotta make a difference.
Right.
Yeah, we want to try to get as much of that water away from the building so it doesn't pool up under and
Right.
and weep in.
Cause other issues too that
Yeah.
we don't see.
So,
And I don't know that there's a difference in either one.
let's take the
Low,
low bid of Velez concrete.
is that your motion?
That would be my motion.
Second.
Rick, is that the same group that did the patches in the sidewalk?
Yeah.
Okay, they did good work on that.
All right, so we've got a motion, oh, go ahead.
Can I ask Cheryl,
Absolutely.
should that be fund?
I-
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that question too, okay. I mean, I'm all for paying for stuff out of the 401 department budget, but. So Commissioner Beecham, do you have a problem with amending your motion to have it to be paid from Fund 401?
No, not at all.
No, do
All right. So we have a motion by Commissioner Beecham, seconded by Commissioner Fincannon, to accept proposal 1533 from Jesus Valdez Concrete at a cost of $9,132 to be paid from Fund 401 with lines determined by the county auditor. Does anyone have any questions or comments on the motion or the item? All right. Then that motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. All right, item number 5. Make sure I got the stuff here.
Judge,
Yes, sir.
my fives don't align online and on my paper. My item 5?
Yeah.
My item 5 online is motion to allow GHD to remove monitoring wells.
That's consent agenda.
That's consent.
Oh, that's it. That's it. It's posted.
Scared me.
That scared me too. I was looking and I could see that other, but
All right, item 5 is discuss, consider, and/or take action on proposal P1567477 from Enterprise Fleet Management for 9 Tahoes for the Sheriff's Office at a cost of $764,930.20 to be paid from general fund contingencies or budget lines determined by the county auditor. So everyone should have the proposal in front of you. Chief McFerrin, do you want to say anything about, I'm assuming you ran point on working with Enterprise on this and getting everything squared away? Okay.
Yes, sir. I got the final estimates for the different configurations for the vehicles on Friday, and I was able to put those numbers together. Believe that just for the vehicles, radios, and cameras, looking at something closer to $776 for the entire deal. That does not include some of the outfitting that we're going to have to do on existing vehicles to change. We have a radio project that we're working on, and also to help advertise for the sheriff's office, because we're not running just short in the jail. We're going to have a couple of openings in courthouse security. We have openings in our records division. We want to take one of these Tahoes and have a wrap put on it, and for what I'm finding online, you're looking at an extra $6,000 to wrap a Tahoe, which still would, according to my estimates, keep us under the amount that the courts has given us. But
That'll be an add-on later.
Yes,
on
sir.
top of this.
Yes, sir.
Which is why you're keeping it with some wiggle room in there.
Yes, sir.
With that number, okay. And just so that everyone is clear, because I know this came up earlier today when I was reading it, the way that this is structured would be, I think Commissioner Watts had asked this question back when Nick had a presentation on it. So we would be paying for all of these up front. They would be, the title would remain in Enterprise Fleet Management Trust's name, because that's the arrangement that Enterprise does with all of their vehicles, whether they're leased, whether their money is borrowed from an outside financing source, or whether it's self-funded. I just wanted everyone to be aware that that would be the way that this would work on page 2 of, I think, of your document. So
They hold the title.
they
on
would
our
hold the
behalf.
title.
That way,
on our
when we
behalf.
get ready to sell it, we don't have to search for the title.
That's correct.
no, Mark, they don't hold the title. The title's in their name. They own the car on paper.
Right.
So you paid for it with county money, and if Enterprise wanted to go rogue tomorrow, they could take it and sell it and sign off on that title because you have.
I disagree with that statement, because under their other agreements that they operate under as part of just their normal work of doing business, as well as the contractual arrangement they have with us, they can't go rogue and sell it and then not bid. They would have to get our permission to sell before they did something, and if they didn't, we would have legal recourse.
And
on
you
it.
would have to get their permission to sell also.
No, not under our contractual agreement with them. I don't think that's right.
So if I have a time period agreement that's in motion, and I say, Enterprise, and you had shared with me 2 years go by, hey, this is not working out. All those cars that are in your name, would you sign them back over to Wichita County? And that answer is going to be, oh, most definitely. Or will it be, well, there's 3 years left to go, and once they cycle, we'll be glad to do that.
No, I think that we would then say, I see what you're saying. Is
What
there
does
was-
the contract say? I mean, wouldn't it point that out?
It would, and I'll go back and double check. I think that the issue is, if we wanted to sell them, we would be asking Enterprise to sell them for us at that point.
But I see no advantage, because I'm like what Mark is saying. If they hold all the titles and keep them in a safe place for when we're ready to trade, but we're at their mercy to sell those cars upon the deal they derive. So if Patrick hears about some opportunity of a hot market, Enterprise is gonna say, no, we're gonna sell them in due course of time elsewhere.
Well, no, I mean, if Patrick hears of that deal and he comes and tells the court, then we would say we want to sell those vehicles and go out and make it happen. I mean, ultimately, we either are going to say that we're in this agreement, this relationship with Enterprise to buy and sell and manage our fleet, or we're not. Because if
I'm
we're worried
all for
about
that has nothing to do with whose name's on the title, though. If they can't do that with their name not being on the title, because there's plenty of companies that do that with their customer's name on the title.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that this is their model. So if we're not okay with this, then we're probably not doing business with Enterprise.
Well, what is the reasoning behind doing all this? Think about a trucking fleet that's huge, owned by a trucking company.
It's for their ability to efficiently dispose of and purchase vehicles, because when the number of vehicles that they are going through for all of their customers across the country, having it entitled in their name makes it easier for them to do that. It just makes it more efficient for them. I don't think they're going to be willing to get outside of that model for one customer.
The whole point of the agreement was to cycle the vehicles out when it's most advantageous to them and us.
Right. So I can't see there ever being a point to where there's a hot market and we want to sell them all of a sudden.
That they wouldn't take advantage of as well. I
Right.
mean, it's in their best interest to take advantage of that too, because we have more revenue to come back in to purchase new vehicles. So,
And how many counties and cities do they represent? There's a tremendous amount of them, and they do the same thing for every one of them.
Mick, they do it under the guise of a lease, which is relatively the same as a loan, relatively the same as the bank being the second lien holder when you go purchase a car. But that doesn't mean that when you go to the bank's name's on the title, and you and Robin have nothing to do with the car. This title is in their name. And I'm okay if they were financing it, but they're not financing it. You're buying it outright.
do we know that the title's in their name, or do we?
Yeah, it says it in the deal.
I've never seen that ever before, and I know plenty of companies that manage fleets. But I can't imagine the fleet taking his asset and putting it all in somebody else's name and saying, well, this will help you manage it better, when they could hold a power of attorney that I give them to sign all Wichita County titles. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I understand that.
I can understand if they're financing it and there's an interest involved and it's their interest, but we bought these vehicles outright, which I am very much in favor of doing. But I didn't know I had to put them in somebody else's name for me to buy them outright, just so they can comply with what they agreed to take care of for us on all these vehicles. I want them to take care of them. I want to pay them to take care of them, but I see no advantage of that Tahoe, the sheriff owns, being in Enterprise's name when he paid for them lock, stock, and barrel.
I understand that. I guess it's back to Commissioner Beecham's point. The model that they built is for nearly everybody they lease, and so they have built the structure around that. If we're not okay with the way that this reads, we might as well just axe the whole agreement with Enterprise, because I don't see, and I haven't asked this question directly, and I can and I will, but I don't see them being willing to change their whole model for one customer.
I mean, I just think we should fully understand it, Judge. It's just not wise business, to me, to put every asset we purchase in somebody else's name for them. There is a reason they're doing that. And it's not just for ease of transaction, because that's done differently.
How do we offset that as an asset of the county if it's titled in somebody else's name?
I don't have any clue how you do that.
Because we would want to carry that as an asset.
And we will.
And we will, and
Yeah.
even if we don't have title?
Yeah.
So you can,
We bought it, it's
We
ours.
bought it, we paid for it.
Yeah, it's,
No.
well, why couldn't I claim that we bought it and paid for your vehicle? It's in your name. Just claim that.
because there's not, we're going to
Because
have
the
other
contract.
documents
There's-
behind this, what, our contract
The
number one.
contract is different from the title.
And then the proposal that we approved to buy it, all of those things work together to undergird the legal ownership of the vehicle. This, the title being in their name, the one place it makes it easier for them is it is going to, we're essentially saying, we are agreeing to buy this with y'all, you're buying this for us, and then you're also going to sell it for us.
In a fleet, you might wanna have it in your name, so you can use it as it's your capital, and you can depreciate it out. But the county's not, we don't need it in our name to show it as an asset.
That's correct.
I mean,
It's not any
all we
different
have to
than the
have is a
lease.
contract. I can see in a private business, if you would wanna have it in there, and you would wanna be able to claim it, depreciate it, and take that write-off, but we don't do any of that through county government, so I don't know that it would matter.
So they're going to utilize the vehicle on a program of 5 years, okay? So we decide next year, we're not gonna be with Enterprise, we'll buy those cars ourselves. What about all the ones that are hung in 5-year programs?
They're not in,
We agreed to do a 5-year turnaround, so Enterprise is gonna say, well, Judge, you said that you agreed that in every 5 years, we're gonna flush these vehicles, so we get to hang on to them.
no, I
We
mean,
have
at
about
that, at that point, we could just say, sell the vehicles, we're done, and we'll get our,
Or we can take the vehicles right where they're at. They said we can stop it at any time.
Right, it's an.
Period.
It's an open lease versus a
Yeah.
closed
Right.
lease.
I don't like when they say, I like when they write in writing and we all sign.
well,
That should be in the contract.
it,
It's
and
in
it
the
is.
contract.
It is.
I just don't, off the top of my head here, have the section and paragraph. But I understand that this is giving heartburn, so I'll be happy to pull this down and get you the answers to those questions. And you've got access to the full contract or the 6 different pieces of it, but I'll be happy to.
But Mel, I would a lot rather, Judge, hear from an attorney that says, here's the risk you run, Jeff, on this occurring or not occurring. I'm not, I don't have that ability.
There's gotta be an out clause in there to where you can pull the plug on it.
No, but I don't remember
It
off the
does
top.
have that.
Yeah, I don't remember off the top.
Keep in mind, we have the vehicle schedule for a reason, and that's part of why we have that schedule, is so that we can remove vehicles from it or add vehicles to it. But I don't have the exact sections either, as the judge said, it's a complex agreement, but we do have the out in it. I mean, we have the ability to get out of it, to pull vehicles out of it that we choose to pull out of it, to add vehicles if we wanna add them, if it's legally permissible, we can. So, I mean, it is in the contract, we have to keep in mind separate entities. It's multiple entities we're dealing with. Enterprise is not one total thing.
Right.
And how quick, Mel, do they have to sign those titles back over to us if we serve them notice in June of this budget year or a budget year? How quick do they have to sign those
I mean,
titles back to us?
we have things in the notice agreements and things in the contract, but Jeff, I'll have to pull that for you because it is like 6 or 7 different agreements to different aspects of it that are addressed.
That's a
But
lot of details.
it is,
Yeah.
and
I mean, that's a lot of details to go down if you wanna, I thought we had already covered all that when we were going through it. That is
I mean, I understand when we are borrowing money from them at a very high interest rate compared to what most people are right now. I understand that. And I can see why their name would be on the title. But when we buy those vehicles outright, it would be like us buying trucks from Bruckner Mac and Bruckner saying, well, I know y'all are gonna trade this. It's a lot easier for us. We're gonna service them and everything. Just leave them in Bruckner Mac's name because the time will come, we'll trade them for you and then we won't have to chase down signatures.
But I think that analogy only is halfway. If we had an agreement with Bruckner to manage our fleet and a contractual undergirding of the whole relationship, well, then it might make sense to do that.
if it were a lease type deal that they were gonna manage our fleet and take care of them and they were gonna trade them and we had it all covered in the contract, how you can get rid of it
Mick,
back and
it's
forth.
not a lease.
No. This, our agreement with Enterprise though is a lease, it's a management agreement.
A
Not necessarily-
management
not necessarily
agreement,
a lease.
yes, that is correct. What I have on Caterpillar equipment is a lease.
Right, but this is all these items that you're talking about were covered in that contract, very detailed.
I understand that. I understand that it's in the contract. I just don't understand why I have to give them title to a vehicle that we paid for lock, stock, and barrel. It makes no sense. They can still perform every single thing. I'm all for them performing everything. It just makes no sense to me as a,
They still can't do anything with the vehicle without our consent. If I understood everything when we visited with them, the 10 times we visited with them, there's nothing to compel us to sell the vehicle when they say sell it. There's nothing to compel us to keep it either which way. It's our decision ultimately what happens with the vehicle.
Well, I think it's a good question to ask, but obviously there's something in their business plan that causes them to do that.
Well, if you're managing 100,000 vehicles, I'm just throwing out numbers, and you've got 500 customers doing one thing, and then you've got 20 customers doing something else.
you do have that with Enterprise. That is happening.
Yeah, they have, and so therefore, if I'm trying to manage 100,000 vehicles for that number of different entities, going out and individually, each time a transaction happens, 100,000 transactions a year, whatever it might be, going out and trying to get the paperwork, the title moved over would be I would think it would be a nightmare. So I would imagine that it's a business, again, it's for their efficiency of their model. Plus, I mean, and there is, as y'all are all aware, we pay a $395 fee when we sell the vehicle to them for them going out and sourcing and trying to get the best deal for us when they sell. So ultimately,
So you don't see any downside whatsoever, and you don't think there's any need to just confirm the fact that if all things went south and they didn't respond to mail, and the first of the year comes around and Patrick needs to order vehicles, we've served Enterprise notice that, hey, we're canceling the contract, and Patrick says, okay, I found 20 Tahoes, we're gonna trade him. Let's go ahead and sell ours right quick, and we'll use that money on the down. And we say, Melvin, we've not got those titles back yet. Well, I'm working on it. I've got a call in to Enterprise, but they've not responded. They've not sent our titles back. Well, then we upfront all the money again, and eventually we get our titles back so we can sell those cars.
in that situation you've just laid out, our ultimate recourse is we take them to court for our contract. And I would think that for Enterprise, that's a lot worse for them. The PR hit on that of not doing business the right way is a lot worse than holding on to our vehicles a little longer.
But Judge, we don't get to go to court in 2 months and get that settled. We might get it settled in 5 years if they wanted to drag their feet. All the whole time, we don't have that asset to utilize to purchase new assets with.
Well, I guess the question is it a deal breaker?
I just think that it's crazy that I understand if we're leasing the vehicles, if we lease the vehicles, but we're outright purchasing vehicles that they still want to be in their name.
Well, I agree with you, it's different.
It's different.
Yeah. I think we need to research and find the clauses in the contract where it spells out how that procedure is gonna work.
Okay.
I know
Because
what,
I understand the title deal, and I also understand I have a hard enough time keeping up with the titles of what I've got in precinct 3 now and making sure they're all where they need to be. So there is something to be said about simplicity to that. Yeah.
Well, there is one other thing, keep this in mind, if you push it another week, you're getting it further down the road, which McPherson and Will, we've all talked about that, getting these 24 Tahoes in the pipe for us right now, we're really reaching a timeline. deadline here. I mean, we can cancel the whole contract.
I don't wanna cancel the
No,
contract.
no. I mean, we could cancel the whole contract, but if you're not sure about it, is it worth kicking it down the road and maybe not get them 24s while you research it and cost another week or two?
All I'm wanting is somebody that
Right.
is an attorney that says wise or unwise. That's all I'm wanting to know, because I've never been exposed to buying something and putting it in somebody else's name, all for the sake of, hey, they're gonna rent that house for you, they're gonna lease that house for you, but I need it in my name in order so I can also have the wiring done, I can also have the foundation checked. I mean, how many?
I don't. We've been working on this contract, and our attorney has been working on this contract for quite a while. We've gone over it. I mean, if you want to drag it out,
I don't want to drag it out, but I do know that 1 week's not going to hurt us for nothing. But I do want to know, so if Patrick says, hey guys, this has been horrible, I can't get the guy to call me back, which is what he reported to us here 2 weeks ago. He had not heard from him, but I can't get the problem. I can't work out here, and I'm having issues, and we don't want to do that no more. We want to change these, quit doing it. And they said, well, I'm sorry, but you signed up for the program, and the cars are in our name. And I'm like, how are we getting this kind of mess? Because you can take cars that are in your name and go to the house, and they can take you to court all they want to, and at least we have our asset in our name.
Okay.
I mean, Mel, am
mean,
I being?
The wisdom of whether to do it or not is not something I think I can, I mean, that's kind of on the court to decide, and I think we've tried over the last year, however long this has been, to lay out kind of the risks of what could happen, and it's ultimately gonna come down to whether you trust Enterprise to abide by it.
But here's the deal, there's no, I mean, I'm just not as gullible to say that anytime we say we don't like any of this, they're just gonna gladly sign everything over and walk away. There's a reason they want those titles in their name.
Well, sure, and that's I think massively as we've looked at it, I think there's just massive convenience for them to have it instead of trying to deal with, if they're in 20 states, deal with 20 different states' title laws to try to sort that out. But it's ultimately going to come down to whether the court trusts them. And I know there's been some reaching out to other entities that use them. I don't know I didn't do any of that, but I know that the judge did some of that.
I mean, no one that I've reached out to has expressed any concern on this level. Now, I didn't reach out. No other county did this the way we are talking about doing it, which is self-funding. Everyone else went down the lease track because they wanted to turn their fleet over quicker. So we are kind of an outlier already, and we are not, the way we are doing it is not the main business model that they're structured to do.
Which is probably why it's written that way, because the majority of what they do is
95% of what they do is a different thing.
Yeah, we're avoiding the finance charges by doing it self-funding.
Yep.
I mean, Melvin's question, I think, is ultimately the right one, which is ultimately, do we trust the partner that we're in a contractual relationship with, along with the contract that's backing it up? Which is always the case.
That's always the case. That's right. It's only as good as the guy signing the paper.
And now Cheryl reported to us that she knew several that had Enterprise. I think her words were, they didn't do what they said they were doing. Now, Cheryl, help me if I'm wrong there, but you said that you knew several instances where Enterprise represented one way and then people weren't happy with how they responded.
I think it had to do with they weren't getting the service part as Enterprise had described it. So when they contacted their representative, they weren't getting that service.
And how did they resolve it?
I think they're still working on that. My understanding from one of the counties that I know is that when a vehicle is paid off, they do put the title in the county's name and send it. Now, I don't know if that's gonna be applicable in our situation, but
Well, Cheryl, the vehicle is paid off when we buy it.
I totally understand that. What I have heard is that they do put it in the county's name and give it to us when it's paid off. But they're going through the lease model.
Right.
And they're choosing not to sell it
Well,
necessarily.
and
No, I was under the
So I
impression that
think-
they're holding titles
I think
for
it
all
just
the
depends
titles for
on
us.
your individual arrangement with them, whether or not you're gonna make them sell it, don't sell it. I think if they choose, hey, we don't want Enterprise to sell it, they give us the title
well,
and
and
our
this
name
this
and
is
goes
an
on.
open-end. I mean,
It's an open-ended.
when we get to the 60-month term, we're not paying anything on it. But when we get to the 60-month at the end of this open-end lease proposal, then I could see that happening. But that's
Let me ask this question. We've got our title expert in the audience.
I showed up this morning as
Yeah.
a character witness for Joel.
Well,
That's the only reason why I'm here, Mary.
no, when you walked in the door, you became.
I'm
Sorry.
gonna start wearing a wig and sunglasses.
Is there any advantage to holding a title in your name other than transfer of ownership that you could think of?
Well, I've never dealt with $776,000 worth of vehicles, but I will say this.
Well, your 50-mile truck's worth that, but anyway, go ahead.
Pretty close. I've got insurance for that.
Let me tell you where I'm going. My question is, there's nothing that we need, in other words, we're not in registering the vehicle, anything during the term that we would be using them, that we need that title in our name, other than transfer of ownership. Is that's my thought, is that correct?
That's a correct statement.
Yeah. So they're not I think it is a convenience deal, and I think they wanna keep them, and I think the reason they don't wanna go through all that changing and transferring is that they full well expect us to ride the contract out. I mean, I think you got a good question, because we need to know, we do need to know. I just don't see that there's any advantage to them, or any need for us to have the titles in our name if we carry out the contract.
Not up until the point you got ready to do something with it.
That's really all that title's for.
At that point in time, that's when the marriage might take a hard left-hand turn. But
Yeah.
up until that point, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm from the old school, and certainly since I got in this line of work after '09. Me and the sheriff's having a good time. It's just hard to beat a title that's in your name. And I'll kind of dovetail off the back of Jeff's point on this deal. I mean, but if this is some business model that will hold up, but I mean, I'm from, hey, you don't know how many train wrecks, emails, phone calls, texts, and everything else. I bought a car, and I told me I don't have a title in my name. I couldn't get the title. It is a, hey.
Fix it for me.
Huh?
Fix it for me.
Yeah, it's a train wreck.
Yeah.
And it's certainly a little bit time sensitive. If in fact, Pat or the sheriff's office collectively found a better deal or a better fleet, and you said, hey, Enterprise, we need these titles. Well, guess what? They said, we'll have them to you next Tuesday. And guess what? Next Tuesday don't get here like it should get here. That's the benefit to having something in your name. That's the backside, or what dovetails into Jeff's point. But as far as operationally, what the sheriff's office does every year, going down the road with them, no, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I registered cars yesterday, I didn't need the title, to do that, but.
we can take the week and give the legal framework for how we get out, what that looks like. We're still gonna have the same question at the end of the day, which is, okay, so if the other party doesn't abide by it, your recourse is legal. So but if it would make you more comfortable with it, we can.
But Judge, that in that instance where you say you don't like it and you get out, the only thing is when I don't like it and the titles are in my name, I get out. And if they send us a bill 6 months later and say, hey, here's your maintenance fee, $30 this month, and you say, we haven't been doing business with you 4 months, I'm not paying you. Well, if they're holding title in your name and that occurs and they say, well, it's shows here on the computer that you were in.
It's a
It's a
leverage.
leverage
It's a leverage.
tool that I
What it is,
see
Yeah.
greatly, and I just don't, I knew large numbers of trucks that traded that didn't, have to be done this way.
We can do two things. We can motion to table or we can motion to move forward. So I'll call the question, one or the other.
Well, I'm
There's,
happy to move that we table the discussion until next week while we get so that we can point out the exact legal step A through step Z of what happens if we decide to get out and we have an open-ended lease where we've paid for it all up front. We can do that. So I'll make that.
but hear me out. Why do we have to table the purchase of cars? Why can't Patrick move forward? If that's a deal killer and we're not with Enterprise, don't stop us from buying cars.
Because Enterprise, through their sourcing,
We don't have the deal.
saved us $4,000 from what they were able to find on their own per vehicle already. This amount that's brought here is $36,000, well, less just on the actual purchase of the vehicles, not the outfitting. They also saved some money on the outfitting. I don't have that in front of me. So this is a enterprise-specific proposal that they were able to price based on their sourcing, which was better than what we were able to get working through Silsby ourselves.
Quite a bit of savings.
Yeah. This is not just an open proposal that just we went out and found and just Enterprise is working with this. This is part of the service that they offer us. They went out and they sourced it and found it cheaper, both on the outfitting side and on the vehicle side. Am I correct in saying that, Chief McFerrin, to your
Yes, sir.
knowledge? Okay.
And Chief, who was this? Who was this you were quoting from?
This is from Holiday Auto Group through Defender for the upfitting. And this is the guy that Enterprise put us in touch with. The judge is right. Silsby, which was the auto group that we were buying, the other ones were a little more than $4,000. And the upfitting was negligible. It was around $260 per unit. So
That's Enterprise's deal, not our deal, basically, then, what you're saying.
yes, sir.
Yeah.
He put me in contact with them. I configured the vehicles, and he sent me the quotes, and
Yeah.
that's how that was done.
We don't have a second.
On the tabling it?
So,
And we might ask the question, they say, oh, yeah, we're not used to doing it that way, we'll be glad to, who knows?
If we don't have a second, I'd make the motion that we proceed with the purchase pending legal review of the out clause.
I'd second that.
So now before us, we have a motion by Commissioner Beecham, seconded by Commissioner Concanon, to approve proposal P1567477 from Enterprise Fleet Management for 9 Tahoes, cost of $764,930.20, contingent upon legal review of the out clause. Because
I think that's smart.
Well, and here's the other thing, I'll make this commitment to you. I have to sign and initial the document to actually move this forward. And I will not do that until he's gotten the.
There is one thing I'd like to have clarification on that too, though, from Enterprise. If the lease agreements, if they get them put in the county's name after that, then I would like to address Nick as far as if they do that for lease agreement vehicles, they transfer them to the county's name. Why, if we're buying ours outright, why is it different?
I don't think it is different from the standpoint of it's still the 5 years. Based on this, it's still the same agreement. So at the end of it, when you reach that 5-year point, even though there's no money being paid for leasing, we would still go to our name rather than an immediate.
Because that's one thing that kind of confused me. If they're taking a lease vehicle and after it's paid for, they transfer it into the county's name, that's not making selling their vehicle later. It's not making it easier. That's putting actually more work on it. So I'd like to know why there's a difference on that.
Well, you transfer it one time rather than twice.
I think this motion.
All right, do we have any other questions or comments on this motion or the item? Okay, the motion's before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0.
We're gonna know a whole lot more about it in the next few years, aren't we?
All right, I'm gonna move some things around real quick. Commissioner Beecham, we're gonna next do general business number 7. Discuss, consider, and/or take action to approve the generality quote for AV equipment for 30th District Court at a cost of $92,469.33 to be paid from Permanent Improvement Fund.
I want to table that pending further review. There's portions of that bid that we don't need, that we've identified that we can do in-house. So I'd motion to table.
Okay. Do we have any objection to the motion to table?
No.
Okay. Then number 7 is tabled pending further review. All right. Now let's take up consent agenda 9 that was pulled down to general business. Y'all did this just so I would have to read the whole thing. Motion to amend court order 24.0116.037 to set salaries for 2024 election workers and authorize county treasurer to release checks after audit. First amendment to this order was recorded on March 5th, 2024 as court order 24.0305.147. This amendment should read as follows. There's a table there. Presiding judges hourly rate $12, attended training $12, alternate judges $12 hourly rate, and for those who attended training. Election day clerks hourly rate $8.50, attended training $10, and all early voting clerks ballot board paid at $12 hourly, and if they attended training, it's the same. All presiding judges, alternate judges, and early voting clerks and ballot board must attend current election training. Workers who complete in-person training will be paid the hourly rate they would be paid for the job they are working in the election. $10 an hour for election day clerks, $12 an hour for all other positions. Workers who attend in-person training but do not work the election will be paid at the base hourly rate of $8.50. Workers who complete the state of Texas online training receive a $7 flat amount and must present their certificate. Salaries for primary elections will be paid according to state law. Election day clerks will be paid at the higher rate if they attend election training. This is new. Workers who deliver precinct election records and/or election equipment supplies after an election will be compensated $25 per occurrence per election code 32.092, with the following rules applied. In a primary election, both presiding judges will be paid $25 each. It only applies to those judges paid directly from the county. Early voting clerk, the lead clerk or designer will be paid $25. General or special election, the presiding judge will be paid $25, or if more than one election officer delivers the records or equipment, the presiding judge shall determine how the amount fixed for the service is to be allocated among the officers. This motion, if approved, will be reflected in the minutes of January 16, 2024 and March 5th, 2024. Okay. Discussion.
Judge, it was my opinion that this is very heavy. And it makes my head spin, just trying to, what you just read, I still don't know. And how in the world could you if you're an election judge? And I think about it as a grand jury foreman versus the rest of the grand jury. Does he get some extra? All of it's very little. The top paid person here is, I consider, very little for what they have to do. But why not make it simplified and everybody get the same price per hour, and everybody that completes training and provides a certificate gets whatever that fee should be. And they don't get any fee unless they present the certificate. But every hour that's ever recorded from anybody all pays the same.
So essentially election day clerks, are saying they would be paid the same rate as all of the other positions.
Which is not very much, yeah.
That's out of, okay.
I have a question, and I don't know this. Is the election judges, are they being paid extra because they have to transport the ballots and stuff back up here? Or that would be
The $25 delivery fee, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, or is that where all that's
They
for?
have to bring, the judges are typically the ones that bring the stuff back, other than during early voting, and it's usually the lead clerk or whoever they designate to be the one that turns up. It's just for for them having to bring the equipment and the ballots back at the end of either election day or the end of early voting. That's what that $25 fee is for.
But couldn't they get a car stipend for if they have to do that?
Would that be just as hard to figure?
I think that'd be
as this?
harder than
Do
just a
what?
$25 fee.
That'd be harder to figure probably than this.
Well, I mean, there's got to be a way to,
Some of this is set by statute.
Right.
which ones?
Well, the
This.
delivery fee is set by statute that it can't be greater than $25.
Right.
It can be less, it just cannot be more.
But you don't have to give it to everyone, right?
No, I mean, that's
But as
partly
long as you knew
what this
who
is to
judges
clarify.
were, you
Right.
could give them the,
This is to clarify that y'all are good to pay the $25 when it is sent to my office so that we know that, yes, we can pay this per whomever is designated there.
how are they designated?
Well, typically,
Can I only pay a judge? What if the judge has said, my shoulder's hurting bad, can you, Linda, take this to Robin's office at the courthouse? And then she uses her car and she drives from Electra over here, but the judge gets the $25?
No, the statute
this-
says the election judge or clerk who delivers the
right,
precinct
or
election
clerk,
records
right, so whomever does
is
it.
entitled to
Well,
compensation.
wouldn't they just turn in a form that says, I delivered the deal?
They have to come in and sign.
They sign when they come into our office,
Yeah, well, I
when they
mean-
deliver equipment, the
But
person
you've got a sheet of paper on everybody that delivered.
Delivered equipment, yes.
Okay, and then you just give that to the auditor
we
and
put
she
that-
mails them the
Right.
$25.
Yes.
Yes, it goes to the.
So that's an easy one. You don't have to really keep up with that very difficult.
And that's
Well,
what
it says
that's what they're
here,
doing here. That's
The
what this is.
presiding judge shall determine how the amount fixed for the service will be allocated among the officers.
Right.
If I'm reading that
If-
right.
And that is all per statute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if the presiding judge and the alternate judge both decide that they want to bring the equipment back at the end of, say, the November election,
They
then
work
the
it out.
$25 would be split, and the
Yeah.
presiding judge says, I want 15 of it, you can have 10. But in a primary, there's 2 presiding judges, so there is a difference between a primary versus any other election.
And I think my concern was not so much this.
Delivery.
Because that can be a form signed when they deliver. But mine was the difference in election day clerks. There's a $1.50 differential, which causes major heartburn. From what I'm hearing, Corey has to determine who's trained and who's untrained. Who gets $8.50? When do they start getting $8.50? And they're getting a whopping $10 once they're trained.
And I think that goes back to the part that they are not required to attend the training. So I believe this is an incentive for them to attend the training.
But I would say, Cheryl, that the amount of time that Corey has to spend on it,
I
that
don't,
$1.50, the amount of time he spends far exceeds the amount that we're saving because if they're untrained and we're paying them $8.50.
I don't disagree.
Trying to figure that out has cost us, what, now a month of time, of Corey's time?
Well, and
2 weeks, but.
Robin, you interact the most with the folks on the ground who are attending training who aren't now election workers. Do you think that the $1.50 is an incentive to them to attend training?
The bulk of them come to training. The ones that don't, typically it's just because they either can't, they're not in town, they just, that week we do training, it's not available. Most everybody comes to training. I have very few that don't. There are some that just do the online because they couldn't come, which they get the certificate and then they're bumped to the $10 either way. So it's a minimal amount of people that get the $8.50, so yeah, incentive, I don't know. I think it's, these people are really dedicated to elections. They wouldn't be volunteering if they weren't.
Right.
So I think they come to training because they want to know what to do.
So Commissioner Watts, are you suggesting we do away with the attended training differential, make the election day clerks just that $10 number?
No.
Oh, you're saying make them $12 as well?
Everybody gets $12, and if I turn in a training certificate, I get a fee for that. I went to training. I had is there cost involved? I mean, I don't know what training is.
Training is provided free to anyone in the public, and they do have to be compensated at an hourly rate at least minimum wage.
If it's, yeah,
So
if they're attending
$12
training.
is,
Right.
so that's turned in on their time. But when Corey looks at a sheet of 150 people, he doesn't have to worry who's 850, who's 10, who's 12. They're all $12. So if he's got a list with 50 names on it and 50 numbers beside it of hours they worked, it's very easy for Corey to figure out what they're owed.
Let me ask you, is there any incentive for our judges
Yes.
getting paid more
There-
because of the
there-
level of duties
There
that
needs to
they?
be, yes, there needs to be a level, early vote, judges, alternate judges, and early voting clerks have more duties than an election day clerk. They have more responsibility, they're the ones that make the decisions, they have more paperwork, so I do think there needs to be an hourly difference. I'm not opposed to getting rid of the 850 and it's just 10, but I don't know that election day clerks need to be 12, because there is a difference between their function and a judge's and an early voting clerk function.
But you can't
They have
give-
way
it's a
more
lot of
stuff to do
difference.
than an election day clerk.
But you can't give every election judge $100 end of the election for serving as a judge?
No, it's an hourly pay.
Set by the
We
state.
make it an
Set by,
hourly.
it is set by
Yeah.
the state at $12.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that election day clerks cannot make $12 an hour? That's set by the state?
No,
No.
we can't pay them more than $12 an hour set by the state, is my understanding.
They could
Unless-
get paid 12. What I'm saying is there needs to be a distinction between what a judge gets paid and what a clerk gets paid on election day, because there's differences in the job duties. So if I'm an election clerk and I'm getting paid $12 and you're the presiding judge and you have way more responsibility, I'm gonna have a hard time getting you to do judge next time when you can just be a clerk and get paid the same money. And the whole problem is we need judges.
But let's say, Robin, in that same scenario, just hold that good train of thought. What if I was the manager and Barry was working under me, and we both made $12 an hour, but at the end of the year, I get a $500 bonus, Barry doesn't get one?
That'd be
Does
great
that
if
not
I
satisfy?
legally could do that.
We cannot, we
Yeah,
can't
okay,
do that.
We can only compensate them by differential of time? That's the law?
It's an hourly rate.
For election workers.
For election workers.
And just to further confuse things, is that true for both primaries and elections that the county's fully in charge of election day?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it's the same.
Yeah, I'm not
But it is a
opposed to-
great thought.
Yeah.
Work
I'm not
at the
opposed to
legislature
getting-
on it.
I'm not opposed to getting rid of the 850 to the 10 and making it 10 because most everybody comes to training.
Yeah, I think
But-
there were 178 people that attended training.
And
And there
what,
was
we only
very
have
few that
200,
didn't.
right?
I think there were a little over 116 that worked. And 178 attended training.
So we had more people attend training
Well,
than didn't
Democrats-
participate in the election.
Well, the difference is because the Democrats paid for their workers for election day, so they're on my training list, but we're not paying their training. So there's more people on that list than what is on the pay schedule because of that difference between the Democrat Party paying their election day workers. So that's the difference between the 878 and the 116.
Motion to amend election day clerks being paid at $10 an hour regardless of training status. And approve.
And approve motion number 9.
Number 9.
We have one more question on that, please.
Yes, sir.
This is clarification only, and sorry, Commissioner, this is going against what you just said, but I want to clarify on the $25 delivery fee, that that's a $25 delivery fee, the same 25 regardless of location. That is correct.
Just want to make sure for myself, because in the
What do you
past.
mean that is correct?
No.
He's asking.
I'm
is
asking
that
for
correct?
y'all to verify. In the past, it used to be like a $25 fee from Electra and
I
Iowa
thought
Park
that was
a.
set by law.
No.
It's an up to 25.
25 for each location.
Well, why wouldn't you give everybody $25 instead
That's
of making
one-
it?
That's
what
what he's
I'm
wanting
trying to
clarification,
But,
that that's
you
our
know,
intent.
somebody going to 10th and Broad and get $25 and Electra has $25. and they
Right,
have to drive
it
25
used to
miles.
be different per,
Right.
wherever you're
But,
coming from.
I mean, this does go back to your point, this is gonna make it convoluted if you go that route. I'm just wanting to verify for my own purposes, when I go to pay these, that was the intent.
I think we pay
Simplify
everybody
it.
$25.
Simplify it.
Okay.
No matter location.
That goes to Mr. Muller's, or Commissioner Muller's always statement, could we make it any harder?
Well, we can.
We can.
I haven't
We
got there.
can.
I haven't got there yet, but yes. I want to discuss the online training, the $7 flat amount, just because the election code does say that election training is an hourly rate. And I know that there's no hourly, all they turn in is their certificate. But my concern is if we ever got audited and it turned out that online training was an hour and we're paying them $7, we're not technically paying them minimum wage, federal minimum wage. That would be my biggest concern.
The election code says, and again, it was passed by the legislature in 1985 and hasn't been
And
touched
it makes zero
since.
sense.
It says that those who attend training have to be paid an hourly rate for the training they attend. Now, does attend mean in person? Does attend
Or is
mean
it
online?
But the point is, Corey, though, the whole point of your question you asked, let's say you get audited. They find that you didn't pay those people correctly.
Mhm.
What's gonna happen?
Fines and penalties.
Well, we'll
Fines
still
of
end up
how
having to
much
pay
money,
them, but
Cheryl?
fines are gonna depend on.
Now, that
Fine.
makes a big difference
It
when
does,
you're answering me.
and we don't know because it will be dependent on per instance, per person, what IRS agent is looking at our stuff, and it is
So they
largely.
can change it,
it
that's
is-
up to them, so
it
it's
can-
not the law.
It can be very
It's their
suggestive
opinion.
on what the penalty is, yes, but the law says you have to pay an hourly rate of equal to minimum wage, which is $7.25 currently.
So when you're found in fault, just pay the minimum wage.
I have a
I'm
question.
just bringing this up because we have it to pay a flat $7. That's all I'm
Commissioner
asking.
Fincan?
I would like to, can we not modify that to where, if they come here for training, they're getting paid 2 hours?
Yes.
Why not just make it to where if they're doing it online, they get 2 hours, or they get an hour and a half?
Or an hour.
Or an hour.
Anything. I
Either
just
way,
want
but get it
something
more
that-
than
Like
that.
an
Let
hourly
me ask a
rate.
question about the online training. Most online trainings that I've done
Just click
have,
the
they're
button.
timed. So you can't just speed through it and you
I
have
don't,
to set.
I've never taken the online, I don't have any
Okay.
idea.
Okay.
I've never done the online for the state training. My recommendation would be, since they're getting paid $10 an hour, no matter if they go to training or not, if they do the training, pay them $10, that's over the,
I'm
minimum,
Good with that.
minimum wage, and they get $10 if they bring in a certificate. That would be my suggestion.
There's your
A
incentive.
flat $10 just to say it's 1 hour?
Yes.
Just
Yes.
pay them 1 hour of
Okay.
Pay them
training,
1 hour
hour
of
of training
at
for
the same
online,
rate that-
at the same rate of,
Okay, that makes
And-
good sense.
And then I just have one more question
All
on
amend
this.
my motion.
And I really don't know where to go with this, but in your chart, the last one is the all early voting clerks and ballot board with the asterisk that said they must attend current election training. What if we have, and I'm not saying we do or don't, I'm saying what if we have somebody show up to early voting or work the ballot board that did not attend training?
The ballot board training is conducted when they show up for work. It's not a separate training. It's a hands-on training because they have to be doing the work to be able to do the training. So ballot board, from the time they start working, the training has started. We do it while they're doing their job. But you also have early voting ballot board that worked election day. So they came to the election day, early voting clerk, whatever training, but there's not a separate scheduled event for early voting ballot board training. It's once they show up to work, then that's when we start, because they literally, it's one of those where, okay, let's open the envelopes. This is what we do, this is what we go over, these are the forms we fill out. So it's kind of encompassed into as soon as they start working.
But some of those same people do attend the other training, because, you know, they're working, I know of one, she worked election day somewhere. She was early voting ballot board, but then she also went to training because she did work election day as a clerk.
Okay, that's really all I had on this, just wanted to cover myself.
So right now, I've got a motion by Commissioner Beecham to amend this court order as it's laid out in our document with 2 changes. Election day clerk hourly rate, $10 now instead of $8.50. So all of those columns are now hourly rate and attended training is the same. And then the workers who complete the state of Texas online training are paid for 1 hour of work at the same rate as if they attended election training in person.
No.
No, it was $10.
$10.
We're just doing
$10
$10
flat.
flat.
$10 flat fee.
Because in person, they're driving up here and it's a 2-hour class and they get paid hourly.
Yeah, $10
Okay.
flat fee to
All right.
to cover the minimum wage.
And I'll second.
And the second by Commissioner Cannon. And I'll just add this, you'll see at the bottom that it's gonna be reflected in the minutes of January 16th, 2024 and March 5th, 2024. I'm actually gonna have this on the agenda for next week for us to to discuss doing this moving forward, so that we're not changing previous minutes, but off to the side that we are going to change the minutes so that they reflect this was modified by court order such and such, such and such. So that if you go back and look at the original, to do research on something in 10 years, and you go back to the original minutes where we adopted, it's clear to you what breadcrumbs to follow to get to what the actual language is at the end.
But this will take effect as of 1/1/24.
Yes.
Okay, so this is back to that, okay. just making
Back
sure.
to January 16th.
Yes.
The original.
Yeah, the original court order. Okay, we've got a motion by Commissioner Beecham and seconded by Commissioner Kincannon. Any other questions or comments on the motion or the item? All right, motion's before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. All right, I think that, now we're back on general business number 6, discussions regarding payroll policies and payment procedures for election workers. Commissioner Watts?
Yes, Cheryl, we appreciate you being here today to answer some of these questions concerning what I guess we're questioning as very difficult policies. And I'll just let you have the floor and tell us about maybe how we derive there and why we're having the difficulty we're having with getting people paid. So it's my understanding, just to be clear, the Democratic Party, by their choice, they both, the Republicans and Democrats in this county, have a contract with Wichita County to pay election workers.
That's correct.
The Democrats decided not to utilize the county to pay their people, and they've all been paid. The Republicans decided they wanted to utilize us, and they're still waiting on us to get all the work done. So I'm just wanting to understand how we develop such a thing so that it can be certainly scrutinized to the way we're scrutinizing it.
Okay, I'll answer this in pieces, if I may. As for the Democrat Party being able to choose to pay them outside of the contract is a different question. I'm not sure they can, for starters. 1, it violates the contract. 2, wasn't asked for by the contracting officer, to my understanding. And 3, does violate the IRS publication that says that election workers are employees of a government. A political party is not a government. So that's a separate question, and I can't answer why they did that, how that happened, and whether or not it really is in compliance with the law. As far as the Republican Party goes and the early voting workers, that 100+ employees adds about 20% to our current base. When we got the information for the last paycheck, we have to manually enter all of those people. We didn't get the information prior to March 14th, so we had a day and a half to enter, audit,
Well, help me
calculate
understand
that.
March the 14th.
Yes,
that
that
some
is when
magic
the
number?
information came to our office.
Okay.
Late on the 14th, it was then looked at on the 18th. They gave us a day and a half at most to get 85 people into the system, manually calculate it, manually do all of the work. As you can see, we have all these rules. You've already said how complicated this is. Payroll is complicated by itself. Now we're complicating it more. We were not able to, with that time frame, meet the last pay date was March 26th? Yes. So the goal always was to get everything in.
So we have to pay, no, just so I'm clear, we have to pay election workers only on county payroll days.
Yes.
That's the law.
All payday is paid on regular pay
No,
dates.
I'm asking you, that is the law.
That's the
We
Texas
have to pay
payday.
it that way.
Texas payday law says we pay all employees on regular payroll dates.
Now,
And that
just so I'm clear, Janet, help me here. You were an auditor in Ellis County, correct?
Yes.
Is this exactly the way that you did that?
I will say, Commissioner, that counties do things differently, but those that abide by the Texas payday law only have a payday where all employees are paid at the same time. Because you must tell employees ahead of time what their scheduled paydays are, and then you must abide by that date.
How do you sign up to be that? Who do you comply with? Who do you send in notice that Wichita County is going to comply with payday rules?
You're automatically assumed that you must comply. There's no option there. It's like if
I'm not following you, Jay.
Okay, if I take and if the majority of my workers are paid by check and we want to go to direct deposit, the state requires that I give all of my employees what they term an adequate notice that I'm going to change the way that they're going to receive their money. Adequate notice has been defined as 45 days. So if we're going to make a change in the way those folks receive their money, we must notify them 45 days ahead of time that, I'm sorry, we're no longer going to issue a paper check. We instead are going to give you a direct deposit or a Visa card or something that has your money on it. And Commissioner, that's just an example of the rules that we have to follow. I'm not suggesting that we do any of this. That's just the stuff that is out there on the Texas payday law. So as far as which counties do and don't abide by that, we have a lot of counties across the state that are not in compliance with what they're supposed to be doing. And when they're audited, not if, sir, but when they're audited, they pay the price.
But none of this, the way Ellis County performed paying election workers was different than Wichita County. You chose it to be that way, I guess. The policy or the procedure that you did in Ellis County, that fell on your shoulders to decide.
Ultimately, yes, within the statutes of the state.
I don't mean to put you on the spot or anything like that. I was recently, so you'll know, with Peter McGill. Dr. McGill trains lots of us, everybody that flows through county government, basically.
Yes, he does.
He couldn't speak more highly of your capabilities and how you apply different methods. And so I just wondered why you didn't choose to do it our way versus the way that you chose it to be in Ellis County.
Because with the differences, sir, between the counties, you have different contracts with your political parties. You have different issues as far as the number of remote locations. The things that are consistent are things such as your maximum pay for delivery is $25. We couldn't go any higher than that. I think it would be awesome if you would get with the legislature and say, hey, our election judges need more money for the responsibility they're doing. Those types of things. But we still have to go within the bounds of the law.
And that's she also spoke to that being election workers, being county workers. I don't know that election workers fall under that category.
Is that the way you treated them,
Yes,
Janet?
sir. Technically, from my research, they are temporary seasonal because they come in for a season, that season being the election cycle. And then when that election cycle is over with, they are no longer employees, because just because I was here for the April election, or the March election rather, there is no indication, Commissioner Fincannon, that I'm going to be back for the runoff in May, nor for the November election. Your wife stated last night on Channel 6, by the way, it was a really good article, that you already have all of the election workers for May. That's great, you know, but do we know how many of those are returning or how many are new? Because there's no indication that who we have
Yeah.
Everything's on backup generator.
Pause for a moment. It's weird.
Mike said the sound's back on.
We're good? We're on and broadcasting? Yes. Okay. Please continue.
Were there any other questions, Commissioner?
Jen, how long were you an auditor in Ellis County?
In Ellis County for 4 years and 10 years before that in ERAP. I was
Mhm.
auditor to begin with in 2010. And
So you've been an auditor for how long?
I'm in my 15th year of serving county government.
And both, I guess, supervised now, I mean, you, 2 departments for sure, or 2 different counties for sure, and this will be your 3rd that you've come to work for.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you
And
very much.
speaking again twice at this year's conference, so.
Good for you.
Okay, I know that we covered a lot of ground last week. Are there any other questions?
Well, I mean, I think the bottom line, Cheryl, is when can we pay these workers?
Our goal is to pay at least the majority of them. I think we have resolved most issues except for the exception of a few, and I'll let Corey speak on this Friday's paycheck. We've been able to resolve a lot of questions.
Yeah, right now, with the information we received yesterday, we have set to pay 116 employees. We are able to pay 108. We are still missing 2 employees that have not returned a W-4, 2 employees with no social security number, and 4 employees with no driver's license or social security, so we're not able to set them up into the system.
Can you read back the breakdown of the 8 again, Corey?
It is two employees with no W-4, 2 employees with no social security number, or social security card, sorry, and 4 employees with no driver's license or social security card.
And so is this part of the payday rule that because those 2 didn't, you have to somehow not pay anybody?
No, I'm gonna concede the point and pay everyone that we can pay. The other 8 will wait until we have the
Till the cows
information.
come home if they don't have their information in. I mean, they'll eventually call your office and say, hey, I never got my check, and you're gonna explain to them why.
Yes, and we will get the documentation
I
at
mean, I
that
can
point.
understand not paying when they don't have all their documentation.
And we
We have a
don't.
problem is not paying when we have it.
And you said that, you just conceded that point. Why did you not concede it? I don't know.
It does make it very difficult to piecemeal it within AR system, be the payroll issues, making sure we've got everything paid in compliance with federal and state statutes, making sure that we bill correctly to the party for election day, and we're not sending out multiple bills, which can make it confusing, because we do bill the party for the election day workers, who then also have to turn that in for reimbursement from the Secretary of State. So piecemealing it makes it takes a complex problem and makes it even harder.
Well, if I understood our earlier presentation, that if we change anything in payroll, we have to change that You have to give 45 days notice. and
If we
we've
change the
essentially-
way we pay them, so from
But-
direct deposit
But they're
to check.
expecting a
or-
paycheck on X date that we told them they get paid on these dates, and then we're not paying them on those dates.
The pay,
Well, let me ask a question. This is, I guess, for Robin and for Corey or for Cheryl. Historically, we don't, when people come to sign up to work elections for us, do we have a set, we tell them you can expect to be paid on the first,
no.
do we do anything like that?
No, and I will tell you across many counties, like I said, there's 254 counties, 254 ways to do things. We've all heard this. And a lot of counties pay far later than we do with resolving their election issues. Election worker issues are a predominant problem across the state. We are working as fast as we can and as efficiently as we can to make sure it's correct and get it out the door.
Well, and the reason I asked that question of, do we tell folks up front?
I don't think so.
Significant chunk of this would be if we were to tell folks up front when, so that they would know when, because if I go into a job knowing it's going to be the first of the month following the month that I worked, if I know that, then I expect it when I get it. But if I don't know it, then I'm expecting it, some people are expecting it a week, some people are expecting it 2.
Absolutely.
Did you have something?
Well, I would like to suggest, the ones that were waiting for the W-4s, we already have, I'm assuming, copies of their driver's license and their socials. We are only missing the W-4. So my recommendation would be include those people in this payroll because the W-4 doesn't give us anything extra,
Well,
other than.
they can choose to withhold, and without the W-4, we don't know if they're wanting to withhold or not. So we do need the W-4.
Was it not brought out last week that a county can choose to whether or not to have election workers file a W-4 or not?
My concern is.
Right, but
is
we
that
haven't done that.
employees-
So we
Okay.
don't have a blanket rule, and so they can choose to withhold.
We're talking over.
Okay, I'm just asking.
No,
I'm asking questions.
I wasn't sure who you were asking the question of, because 2 people responded at the same
Okay,
time.
all right, no.
Go ahead, Ms. McKenna.
If we're gonna treat them like employees don't have to fill out a W-4 every time. So we obviously had a W-4 from these people at one time. We're just waiting on a W-4 for this year. So I don't know why those people can't be included, because they filled out a W-4 in the past. So employees across the board I don't have to fill out a W-4 every year to tell you my changes. So I don't know why poll workers are held to a different W-4 standard every year.
Technically, we are supposed to get a new W-4 every year. We have not been good at that practice, and that is something we are working on changing.
So you're saying that
We are supposed to get a
all
new
county
W-4
employees are
every-
supposed to do that every year?
That is correct.
And you've neglected to do that
We are
for,
working on getting that rolled out, yes. We haven't because, just like in every job, you tackle the fires that are burning the brightest sometimes. And we recognize we have not done that well. We're working on that, so it will be consistent with this process as well.
But I just want to understand, because I'm very confused. A W-4 is not required.
Okay, no, W-4 is required. There is nothing in federal law that exempts us from getting the form. There is an exemption for election workers that we do not have to withhold unless they choose to. The form tells me whether or not they are choosing to withhold or not, because I don't know what their tax status is.
But let's say you didn't have a W-4 and you paid them, and you didn't hold
That the county could get a fine from the IRS.
for not having a W-4.
That is correct.
Unless we do a blanket order.
Yes. You can do a blanket order not to withhold, not to get the form. We still
Right.
have to get the form, but we can do a blanket order that we won't withhold. You still must have the form though. There's nothing in federal law that says you don't have to get the form, so with no specific exemption, it is required. Now, there is a specific exemption for a 9-9 form.
Is it required to have the form filled out from each employee every year?
Yes, we should be doing that.
That is a requirement. We should, or is it a requirement, a federal statute requirement?
It's my understanding it is required.
all right. Do you have all the W-4s from every
I've worked
election?
in the workforce for nearly 50 years, and I've never, only upon entrance into employment, I've filled out a W-4.
It is one of those things that gets pitted to the bottom of the pile. You're correct.
Well, that's That's the exception rather than the rule. I mean, I spent 34 years at the city, and I'm in my 8th year at the county, and I've only filled out one at the city and one at the county.
Right, and they've even changed
One
those
at Long
forms
John
over the
Silver's, one at
years,
Scotts
so-
Drive-In, one at Woods Nursing Home. I can keep going. One at Red Colon.
Only if you bring the little hat, Scott's
Yeah.
hat, that you
Yeah,
wear in the
I'd love to. And my little Long John Silver's red hat with the earring on it, so.
I would like to address the.
Yes,
some of the
ma'am.
remainders. You know, some of these other ones that are on the list of not, we do have a W-4, and I can verify their address in our voter registration system, their driver's license, their social security number. I can verify all of that, so I think some of these, even though we don't have a copy of their social, I can verify the information, I can verify most of the information that would be necessary to load them, and get them paid. There's only one person that would leave one outstanding that I can't verify anything on.
And this
But
is
that
dealing
would-
more with
that would
item number
knock off-
8 that it is.
That would
So
knock off
we-
7 of the 8.
We rolled out this for election workers. When do I expect to have to fill out my W-4?
Tomorrow.
They
Tomorrow?
should be,
No, I'm just
they should
Okay,
be,
that's fair enough. If we're gonna do it, let's do it.
all paperwork should be filled out prior to working. That is the same rule we
Let
have
me
for
ask
all
you-
of our regular employees. We're not asking anything different than we do for our regular
So,
employees, so they should be
These
filled
are
out.
part-time, temporary, seasonal employees.
Right.
We've established that. But the vast majority of our election workers have been employed by the county in previous elections. We've had all their information verified at those previous elections, and they come back into our employment, or they actually never left because we never terminated them. My question is, do they have the same employee number when they come back?
Yes, but so does every other terminated employee from Wichita County. For instance, I left the county for 10 years. My employee number is the one issued to me in 2006 originally. So we do use the same numbers even if
But-
you've been
But
terminated.
we've already got all their information.
We have to verify that information is still correct, and those,
Could that
and
not
a
be
part of
done
our
really
audit process
simply
is
when we?
requiring that data.
Can that not be done really simply when we bring them back on? Hey, have you had any change in status? Is that not verification and not having had a change in status since from the November election to the April election or March election?
I think what you're asking is essentially a uniform form for
Yeah,
when folks
why are we
essentially
complicating
signing
the
off
matter?
on is
Yeah.
saying, I agree that the information is still
I
the
mean,
same.
I don't know that this has been required in elections past.
It has, it started in late 2020, I think it was, we rolled this out after I came back on board and realized that we were paying election workers through accounts payable instead of payroll, which is not in
So you've
compliance
made,
with the law.
every election since
We do it
2020.
annually, we would get that, yes.
Annually or every election? Because this, you said it's every election. So which
I
is it?
required it to be annually, the forms. Through our research, it kind of indicates we should do it every election, but
So
I'm
you-
asking for it annually. We are a calendar year, and so we would like it done before the first training of the
So
first
when did you change the
election.
rules? This go around, this election?
We've not changed the rules.
You said
for
that you
this
did it
any.
annually before, but then you learned that you need to do it every election.
No,
So
I
what, at
said
what
we
point?
learned it was every 60 days that they would be terminated and no longer in our
Terminate. Who terminates them?
Well, technically, they're seasonal temporary employees, so once the election is over, they're considered terminated. And
So
then
do you
we
terminate them
onboard
in your system?
Yes.
Without a pay change sheet?
It doesn't need a pay change sheet because of the way they're classified. But we're just asking for this annually. Truthfully, it should be done prior to anyone
I'm looking for a way
working.
to make your job simpler, but if we've already got them verified once and they said, I haven't had a change, because I would say 98% of them haven't had a life change since they were last.
Right. Now, we are trying to get some younger ones.
No, well, I mean, even younger ones, if they haven't
Some
changed their
newer
address, they haven't got married, then there's really not much to verify. You ask them, is it the same? Nothing's changed? Why does that not suffice and meet the statute?
When y'all are asking for the social security card or the driver's license card
Which you
itself,
already
the actual
have.
physical copy,
Right.
that's to verify that nothing has changed. Is that correct?
Verify nothing has changed, that the driver's license is not expired, so it is a valid form of ID. We also verify that everything is spelt correctly, the number on the card matches what they wrote. We're getting this all in somewhat different forms of legibility on handwritten information. So we need that number to match the name exactly, or there is a penalty when we turn in our W-2s if they don't match exactly.
How much is the penalty?
It's $100 per document.
So $100 per document per employee.
Yes.
So if you didn't have it on everybody, we'd pay $100 times $200.
Potentially, yes.
And so,
But so you're asking the citizens to pay a fine or because we didn't get the form and verify it?
I think you kind of threw that out there.
no,
That's
I
kind of
mean,
funny.
to me, we're spending, it's kind of like a Hank Williams Jr. song.
I understand.
We're
but
spending $1,000 to save $100.
Well, it
Just
is.
in time of people that get paid pretty good money to spend time and time and time and time to avoid a penalty that doesn't amount to nothing. Because do you know, Cheryl, of anybody personally that's been fined like that?
Yes, I did have some clients
I
in the
don't,
private
and
sector.
I'm older than you, and I've been involved in business my whole life, and I don't know a soul that's ever happened to.
Well,
Could you tell me who you know?
yes, I had some clients, and no, I cannot divulge them. That is confidential information.
But
they
multitude of people that's fined like that.
We've had some, yes, that have gotten that. We want to avoid that. It is part of our auditing process
I
by
want
statute.
to avoid the large cost to the taxpayers in this county for doing something that amounts to naught. That's what I want to avoid, Shirley.
How can we streamline the process to avoid this discussion?
I think an
Going
excellent way
forward.
to do that is either for someone from either my office or HR who already collects these documents for every other employee to do this at the training. I think getting that in advance and getting it sent to our office will get them loaded in quicker so that when we get the time, we can pay that really quickly. Our auditing goes down dramatically with that, but we are required by statute to audit and verify everything before I can approve and sign those checks.
Is
And
that
that's
what you
we're
did,
trying to
Janet,
do.
in the two different counties?
Yes.
And was that always dragged out to this length of time?
Paying election workers is one of the hardest tasks that any county has to do, and it's simply because of the nature of the employee.
Did it generally take this long?
It has taken longer, sir, and I don't mean that in any disrespect, but it's just, you're lining up the documents, you're trying to coordinate people's schedule, you're trying to get everybody, and oh, by the way, you filled out the entire form, however, this one line's missing, and that one line is required. And it literally is chasing. It is a very expensive and very tedious process.
Robin, do you have
Yeah,
any
I would
ideas?
just like to point out that going forward, keep in mind, we're never gonna have everything up front. It's just, it's ideal, but the possibility that we're never gonna have everything up front is always going to be there. So eventually, we do need to come up with some workaround for those outliers, because we're always gonna have them. Keep in mind, early voting, I am responsible for getting the clerks. On election day, the judges get their own clerks. They don't have to run it by me, they don't have to tell me who they are.
They don't have to run it by the auditor.
That's their job. They get their clerks. So if I'm the judge and I picked these 3 people to be my clerks for that day, and 2 of them bailed on me, I've got to find 2 more, and that's literally the day before the election. So just keep in mind that we're never gonna be 100% have everything up front. We're always gonna have outliers, because you always have that situation that could apply.
And that's why you should never
Which happened this last election.
hold up everybody's pay over a couple of people not having all their paperwork.
Is that
done.
what you did, Janet?
I'm sorry?
Did you hold everybody's pay until you complied with everything and then went out with one set of checks?
No, sir, we paid as we went.
Oh, as you went, okay.
So that never just held up the whole group.
No, but
That's
the other
that's
thing,
good.
the other
But
thing.
wouldn't it make sense to what Cheryl's saying is to avoid that $100 fine? We just hold everybody straight across and spend a lot of money so we could save a little bit of money?
Okay, you're mixing the topics, okay? The $100 fine has to do with if your records, you have me as Janet Martin instead of Janet Sue Martin, which is what's on my social security card, okay? Also, in compared to my CPA license,
Go back the other way. That wasn't just 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, they're testing.
Oh, okay. And so we got to redo.
We're back? Okay,
all right.
please
So
continue.
that's where your $100 comes in. That's also at whoever the examiner is can bump that up higher because, you know, you've not consistently done this in the past, so we're gonna ding you, so hopefully you learn your lesson and you're compliant going forward. And that's where the true agony is in all of this, okay? Now, as far as paying as you go, we always paid as you go. However, just as Cheryl alluded to a while ago, it's ugly when the parties get multiple invoices that say, okay, well, this time we're billing you for 15 workers and this time we're billing you for 3 workers, because since they don't get everything at one time and they sometimes don't keep good track of how many workers there were, well, aren't we double paying you? Again, very arduous process of proving to them who is here, who are you billing for, and are we not getting double billed? So I can't say that her stance has been without merit, okay?
I have a question for Julie or Robin, either one, I don't know. We have contracts with the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, but can, either party by statute can choose to pay their own workers, can't they?
Correct. Yeah, for a
I
primary
mean, it's
election.
not our choice.
No,
It's not
it is the party's, because the election is the party's election.
Okay.
It's not a county election, it's not a state election, the party is
The
the
reason
one
I
that
asked
is
that
putting
is
on the election.
earlier Cheryl said that it was I believe you said it was a law that it has to go through our
The
Congress.
federal government defines election workers as employees of a government.
But they're not. Not only during the election that we're in charge of.
Yes.
The other election is their election.
Yes.
So I just thought that was a little odd that you said that when that's not really the case. It is not always, that's not always the case. So what you were stating is not true. We're not violating the law.
For a primary election, on election day, the actual workers would be considered to be working for the party because they're the ones that are paying, either contracting to have the county pay or paying them themselves. And that's part of primary finance, and that's part of the primary
And
sector for
that's
Texas.
why I hesitated all this, whether they're county workers or not. That's where I have a problem with it. It seems a little, they're not really county workers. These 45-day limits don't really apply. Being on the pay schedule doesn't really apply. They're their own individual class. They're a poll worker. If we want to get our poll workers paid, we don't have to do it every 2 weeks with county pay. That's a choice by our auditor's office. We could very well say, we want them paid the week after the election's over, period. I mean, we have the right to do that. I mean, they can.
They're essentially contract employees then at that point.
They're kind of a weird status all to themselves, is what I'm getting at.
And on a primary election.
Well, and
Oh,
that's
it's the primary election.
Right, because that's the weird thing too, is that primaries are different than the rest of our elections.
And what's really odd, the fact that they can change their workers the day of the election, and we don't have any paperwork on it. That's why I mean, they're all there.
That could be any election. That's not just applied to a
Right.
primary. That could be any election, because if an election judge has 3 people bail on him and he had 4 workers, he's got to find somebody to help him work that election. So that could apply to any election, whether it's county ordered, state ordered. Just keep that in mind. That's not just a primary issue.
Right. That's why I hate us to see us classify them as a certain thing, because they're really not. They're a standalone type of work. They're not necessarily seasonal. They're not necessarily contract. They're election workers. And we have a hard time getting them, so we need to save them. we need to keep them here, so.
Absolutely.
All right. Any other questions or comments on this one before we get to that point, which is the next item? Corey, did you have anything else you wanted to? Okay.
Yeah, I'd like for us to have a plan moving forward, this doesn't happen again, so.
Yeah,
Where it's a well thought out and published plan instead of, oh, we decided this at some point.
Yeah, I think the best way for us to move forward, and had discussions with the auditor's office on this, and visited briefly with Robin about it too, would be for us in the next weeks before the next election cycle, for us to all hammer out on paper what an actual,
Yeah, I mean,
what, so that everybody is playing off of the same page, and we know what the
Sure.
expectations are, and so do
I
our,
do-
we know that and what our work is.
Keep in mind, the next election cycle
Yes,
starts in
it's,
3 weeks.
we're already there.
And I want to add one thing that Cheryl said that I agree with 100%. This is a payroll issue, and she brought up the fact that somebody from her office would be there to obtain all that information. I think that's great. I think that's the way it should be. That way they can get everything they need, they can get it all done while they're there, and there's not all this back and forth, and there's not any bickering. I mean, let them take care of it, let them get all the paperwork and do whatever they need.
Except for the folks that come in on election day, that when you can't find the.
And then they can track them down, because it's still a payroll issue, they can,
That's
as
a
long
small-
as
that's
we,
probably a small
if we have a form or something with contact information where you can send it to them, the auditor's office can track them down and get that information. They have a fairly good sized staff, let it do, let it happen. I don't disagree with that at all, I think that's a good idea.
yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, comments on this item? Okay. Moving on to general business number 8. Discuss, consider, and order county treasurer to pay all election workers for duties performed in conjunction with the 2024 primary election to be paid by April 5th, 2024. Mr. Buchanan, I think this was your item?
Yes. The reason I put this on there was because, and I'll be honest with you, because Cheryl wasn't here at court last week, and I didn't want that to come here today, and we decide again that we're gonna kick the can down the road another week. I wanna have a court order saying we're paying these people this week. Based on all the information that I've heard here today, also coming from the EA, right now, we have all the information to pay everybody except for one worker. I think we as a court need to have them write all the checks for all the election workers, and I put all, and have them in the treasurer's office, or have them sent out however they are, but have them in the treasurer's office so people can pick up their checks. And if they want to hold that one till they get that information, then hold that one. That person brings their stuff in, give them their check. But there's no reason to hold this up. We need to get this done. I think it just it's a bad look for us as a court. It's a bad look for the county. It's a bad look for the auditor's office to hold this with all this controversy going on. I think we just need to get the checks written and have it done. Get them paid. I don't believe we're not violating any laws. Any social security number or DL number for an election worker is entered through the teams in the election deal. It's all verified everything's verified. Is that true?
The team system, when we enter information for voters, it hits up against the DPS and it hits up against Social Security Administration. If it's not right, it's gonna kick it out and tell us that either the DL doesn't match or the Social Security number doesn't match. So yeah, Teams does that for us in the voter registration system. And all of these people, I have their information. There's only one individual that did not provide his social on the form. So I don't have his social on his W-4, and his address is different. So there's one outlier that I'm not comfortable with, because even just mere address change, what I show in my system does not match what he put on the W-4 that he filled out. But everyone else, I can give you DL, full social, date of birth, all of that, for the 8 remaining that were out, other than the one.
But Stephen, you want to address that?
Yeah, with this order number 8, this item, I have problems with how this is written and kind of shoved to me. And I kind of have problems when nobody came to talk to me about it. Discuss order county treasurer to pay all election workers.
And that's not ordering you to do anything.
No, that's what it says right
And-
here.
And we changed the
It
wording
says
on
pay
it.
to order the county treasurer to pay all election workers.
Okay.
Okay, I don't have the authority to write a check. I don't have a checkbook. Okay? You can't order that. The law itself says in the county with the county auditor, the county treasurer, and the county depository may not pay a check or order for payment unless it is countersigned by the county auditor. So trying to order me to write a check and pay somebody behind the treasurer's behind the auditor's back is illegal, and it's not going to happen that way. If we want to process it like every other check where it goes through payroll correctly, we all get the reports from the auditor's office on all the AP that goes out on all the payroll stuff. I always look at it every time I've had questions. They're answered immediately by whoever I contact over there. So it's a checks and balances system where these checks are put in the system. Payroll, it doesn't even have to do with elections, it's all of it. The idea that you can say, Stephen, sign this checks and send them out, that's
No.
not legal, and it's every
Stephen,
single
that's
check.
not
That's
what-
what this
that's
order
not
says
what's
right here,
occurring.
sir. That's
So-
what it says right here. Order needs to pay these checks.
Discuss, can we discuss with you?
I'm trying.
And can we consider with you?
I've considered for a week, yes.
And when this court takes action, we order. That's what we do.
It's not ordering you
It's
as
not
the
ordering
treasurer.
you.
It's
It's
ordering.
produce an order out of the conversation in discussing and considering to create an order. Now, I was told by someone that is an attorney that this is correct. Are you an attorney, Stephen?
No, sir, but I did call TAC Legal and talk to the attorneys there, and they
And what
gave me
did they
this
say?
information.
And did they give you a letter to so you can show us that?
No, would you like one?
Yeah, I'd
Okay, I'll
love
get
to
one.
have that letter.
I'll let you know when I hear back from the ethics committee too.
I mean, do you have the letter that you called?
Did I just say I did?
I didn't understand. I don't know what you're saying to me.
I said I don't have one in front of me, but if you like, I can call and have them write something to send to me. And when I hear back from the ethics committee on this, I will give that to you as well.
That's irregardless of what this court does. We don't wait on you to decide you like it, don't like it, or you're gonna call the ethics commission before we take action, because we've been informed by highly intelligent people that do have a law degree that this is the action that this court should order. I can't help you with your
No, I'm
concerns
telling
or
you that it's
problems.
illegal. I'm sorry that you heard that from high up people that it's legal, but it's not.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know.
That's just also another attorney's opinion. Yours is an attorney opinion, his is an attorney opinion. We're not here to be divisive. All we're trying to do is get our poll workers paid.
Yes, correct.
That's our ultimate goal. We're not
That
here
was
to
handled
fight.
in the previous item.
The reason, no, it wasn't. The reason we want to have this like this is not to order you to do anything, is not to order, maybe is to order as a group
That
for this
everyone gets a
county.
job and get everybody paid.
Everybody get this done by April the 5th. We would like a court order saying that these people will be paid. Cheryl said a while ago that there were all but 8 people, or Corey said that, one of the two.
And we have audited, and I can verify and present for disbursement all but 8. Those 8, until I have verified an audit and approved them for payment, cannot be paid until I have approved that and audited and presented it to this court for disbursement. Once I present a claim for payment that I have audited and approved, the court may order disbursement, and then the treasurer may disperse. So I am good with all but 8 at this time.
That's my choice.
No,
and
that
not
is
law.
by local government code 113 that I get to make that choice. And yes, it
Yes.
is my choice that
Right.
I am good, and I can attest to and audit and verify all but 8. And I am good to present up to those 8 for this court to consider disbursement.
That does still seem to be somewhat argumentative or combative language, but I'm good
That's what
with
we're
you.
getting from you guys too.
Well,
Yeah.
Do we need to modify it that we'll be glad to pay the $100 for those 8 that might be out of compliance?
No, because
Because
this,
that'd be far cheaper than
Sure.
what missing a payroll deposit
I understand,
costs.
but this court doesn't have the authority to order any disbursement for a claim I have not presented to
Oh,
the court.
yes, ma'am, it does.
No,
I
it
beg to
doesn't.
differ. And you can agree or you can think that all you want to, but I have a difference of opinion. And this court can take action regardless of your thoughts about it whatsoever.
The
And this
auditor
court
must-
will take action regardless of your thoughts forever.
Unfortunately, it is my signature on the check, and I must be good with it.
Absolutely.
And
You
I-
gotta do what you gotta do, we've gotta do what we've got to do.
And I am good with
It's-
all but 8 at this time. If we get the information before we finalize payroll, we'll be happy to get that included.
Yeah.
Point of order.
Yes, sir.
You've got a motion on the table, Judge. Did we have a second?
No, there's no motion on the
There's
table.
no motion.
I thought Mr. Fincan, okay.
No, I didn't make the motion, but I
There's no
would,
motion on the table.
and I would like to ask a question of the court. Maybe this is asking for a point. As far as the county treasurer, making a court order to have the county treasurer pay it, would it be better to have the county treasurer and the auditor pay all election workers by April the 5th? Would that be a more proper wording?
No, I think you know what the wording is. I think your motion is correct. Now, what she chooses to do with it is her business. But I think this court needs to move forward with
To
its
direct
advice.
direct the county auditor and treasurer to take steps necessary to pay
All election
warrants
workers.
for election workers.
Now,
Now, we can make that because we're directing them to do their job.
I may have misunderstood
Say
what
that
the
again.
attorney or,
Go ahead.
well, I just may have misunderstood because I thought the advice was to draft an order.
Yes.
And was it not specific on one particular position? Well, I would not vary from that now.
Ultimately, yeah, the court can take action to direct.
Okay. Then I would-
Cheryl was right that it's her prerogative to decide if it meets.
Absolutely, I agree with that
the-
100%.
Then
No one's arguing with that.
Then I'm not opposed to keeping the, and I want to clarify though for the public and for Stephen. When this originally came across, it was written in a way that basically said discuss, consider, and then order you to pay election workers. It was edited to form it as, because this is a court and everything we do is by order, that's the way it comes across. It's the way that's reading, you might take it as that, but it was not the court ordering the county treasurer to do anything. It's just the order of the court.
Well, it's no
Just to
different than
clarify.
item number 3.
Which is what all the other
No,
ones say.
it's the same
Ordering
thing.
the county treasurer to disburse payroll and or bills within 72 hours.
Right.
It's the same
So
thing.
my motion would be as stands on number 8.
Second.
All right, with the language as it's on the page.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got a motion by Commissioner Fincannon and seconded by Commissioner Watts for the county treasurer to pay all election workers for duties performed in conjunction with the 2024 primary election to be paid by April 5th, 2024.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions, comments on the motion or the item itself? Okay, the motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
I'm gonna vote no, and the reason why I don't like the language. I agree with the motion, I agree with the action, I just don't agree with the language.
Okay. With there being 4 ayes and 1 nay, the motion passes. Which brings us to item number 9, receive update on courthouse renovation.
I wanna say something before we move on to that, if I can.
Okay.
You talked about, just a minute ago, about being disrespectful or whatever, however you put it. The disrespect that's coming from members of this audience toward this court is ridiculous. I watched back the tape from last week and watched how we were talked down to and totally disrespected. You, Corey,
I
were
agree.
way out of line.
I agree. I followed suit.
Your little smart aleck comment was uncalled for.
Which one?
We are the court. We have the right to ask questions and to question any action that comes before this court. We were totally disrespected last week. That's all I've got to say.
Do you want to?
Yeah.
Item number
Yeah, please.
receive update on courthouse renovation, elevator projects, and county courthouse annexes.
Yeah, as
Quite a
last
shift,
couple
sorry.
of weeks, things are continuing just as they were. Nothing really new to report. I'm still working at the annex. They're doing the tile work on the second floor. Sheet rock's gone up in most of the tax office. 30th District Court's moving extremely quickly. Still making some modifications in the judge's bench area. With Judge McKnight to make sure we have it built where it functions ultimately for him. Other than that, it's moving along well. Everything's moving well.
Okay. Any questions or comments on item number 9? All right. It is 12:20.